The rain was falling softly over the green roof of the Amazon rainforest as a small boat moved slowly along the dark river. Inside were three people who had waited their whole lives for this moment. Dr. Maria Torres, an archaeologist from Spain, sat quietly at the front, watching the trees. Her eyes were full of excitement and fear. Next to her sat Ethan Cole, a young biologist from the United States, who carried a camera and several notebooks. Their guide, Rafael Silva, a local from a small Brazilian village, stood at the back, steering the boat. He knew every twist and turn of this dangerous river. Their mission was simple on paper, but nearly impossible in real life: to explore a remote, untouched part of the Amazon that had never been properly mapped. Maria had found an old map in her university's archive drawn more than 100 years ago. The map showed strange markings deep inside the forest, shapes that looked like stone walls buried beneath the trees. No one had ever been able to prove those markings were real. But Maria believed this journey could change history. The sun began to disappear behind thick clouds as they reached the riverbank. They unpacked their supplies, tents, food, cameras, drones, digging tools, and medical kits. The air was heavy with the smell of rain and earth. Every sound in the forest seemed alive. Monkeys screamed from the treetops, insects buzzed around their faces, and the ground moved slightly under their boots as tiny creatures crawled below. Ethan laughed nervously. "Feels like the forest is watching us," he said. Raphael nodded and replied, "It always does. But don't worry, it only bites when you're not careful." The first few days, the team worked normally. They studied new species of plants, took water samples, and documented animal behavior. Maria spent her evenings looking over the map again and again, trying to match it with their GPS location. She felt something calling her, a strange pull toward the deeper parts of the jungle. Every night she could hear distant thunder and the whisper of wind through the massive trees. It felt ancient, almost like a voice trying to speak. On the fifth night, everything changed. It had rained heavily all day, and rivers of mud ran through their camp. The air was thick and warm, and the sky flashed with lightning. Raphael went out to check if their equipment was safe. As he walked near a large tree that had fallen after the storm, his flashlight caught something unusual. There were strange lines carved into one of the roots, clean, deep lines shaped like symbols or letters. They didn't look natural at all. Raphael called the others. Ethan brought a camera, and Maria knelt down to study the carvings. They were old, very old, and covered in moss. But under the light, she could see patterns, circles, and triangles arranged carefully, almost like writing. "This can't be made by nature," Maria whispered. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from excitement. Ethan filmed everything, while Raphael marked the spot on the map. They followed the carvings around the tree and found more signs nearby, stones half buried in dirt, covered in lichen, but perfectly shaped. Some were arranged in a line, pointing toward the east. Maria couldn't believe it. She looked up at the jungle, her heart racing. "If this is what I think it is, then there's something big buried here," she said softly. Raphael looked uneasy. "Many people from my village say there are spirits that live under this ground," he warned. "Old ones. It is better not to wake them." Maria smiled gently. "We're just going to take a look," she said. "History needs to be seen." The rain returned, harder this time, and they decided to stop for the night. Back at camp, Maria spread the map on a folding table under a small lamp. She matched the carving's location with the marks on the map. Her hands shook as the pieces fit together. The carvings were almost exactly where the map showed a circular mark, labeled only with a single faded word, entrada, which meant entrance. Ethan sat beside her, looking at the photos on his camera. "These markings. They look like they belong to a civilization we don't know about," he said. Maria nodded. "If we're right, this could be older than any known Amazonian culture. Maybe even older than the pyramids." She couldn't sleep that night. The rain beat against the tent, and thunder echoed in the distance. She kept staring at the glowing blue dot on her GPS that marked the place of the carvings. Somewhere under that earth, something was waiting. The next morning, they began exploring in that direction. The path was difficult, full of slippery rocks and hidden snakes. Raphael used his machete to clear vines while Ethan carried equipment. The deeper they went, the quieter the forest became. The sound of birds stopped. Even the insects seemed to vanish. Only the sound of their own footsteps remained. After several hours, they reached a hill covered in thick roots. The soil there was darker, softer. Maria noticed the same carvings on the rocks at the base of the hill, more detailed this time, spirals and star shapes. She brushed off the dirt and gasped. "This was made by human hands," she said. Raphael looked around nervously, muttering something in Portuguese that sounded like a prayer. They decided to set up a new camp nearby and continue digging the next day. That night, as they sat around the fire, Ethan joked, "If this turns out to be an alien base, I'm leaving first." Maria laughed but said nothing. Her eyes were fixed on the darkness beyond the firelight. Somewhere out there, the jungle seemed to breathe, almost alive, almost watching. Before going to sleep, Raphael walked to the edge of camp and stared at the trees. He heard something, a deep humming sound coming from underground, like the earth itself was moving. He froze, his heart pounding. When he returned to the tent, he didn't tell the others. He didn't want to scare them, but he knew something was not normal about this place. That night, Maria dreamed of lights under the earth, blue and cold, like stars buried in the soil. When she woke, the dream felt more like a memory than imagination. She stepped out of her tent, breathing in the wet air of the rainforest. The world was silent and still, as if holding its breath. Tomorrow they would begin to dig. She had no idea that what they were about to uncover would not only change their lives, but also the story of human history itself. The next morning, the forest was heavy with mist, and every leaf shone with drops of rain. The air felt thicker, heavier, almost like it was hiding a secret. Maria woke up early, filled with nervous energy. She checked her notebook again, comparing the carvings they had found with the old map. Everything pointed to one place, the hill where they had seen the strange symbols. She looked around at the sleeping camp, then whispered to herself, "We have to know what's under there." By the time the sun rose, everyone was awake. Ethan was busy setting up the drone, while Raphael cooked breakfast using a small gas stove. The smell of coffee mixed with the scent of damp earth. Maria gathered them around the table and showed them the map again. "We'll start digging here," she said, pointing to the red circle she had drawn over the hill's base. "If this structure is real, the ground below us will be hollow." Raphael frowned, glancing toward the jungle. "This area is not safe," he warned quietly. "Animals don't come here, and the trees grow strange. My people say this place belongs to the old ones." Maria gave him a soft smile. "Then we'll be respectful," she said. "We only want to understand what they left behind." Ethan nodded eagerly, though a hint of fear crossed his face. They began their work after breakfast. The jungle heat was exhausting, and sweat covered their faces within minutes. Ethan used a shovel, while Raphael cleared branches and vines. Maria carefully brushed away the soil with her small excavation tools, searching for patterns or shapes. Hours passed and nothing unusual appeared. The air was filled with the buzz of insects and the distant sound of birds. Then, just after noon, Ethan's shovel hit something hard. The metallic clang echoed through the forest. Everyone froze. "That didn't sound like a rock," he said, breathing heavily. Maria rushed over and knelt beside the hole. Together, they brushed the dirt away until the object was visible, a flat stone surface, smooth and cold. It was unlike any rock found naturally in the Amazon. The surface had faint carvings, the same circles and triangles as before. "This is man-made," Maria whispered, her hands shaking slightly. Raphael stared at the stone with wide eyes. "No one has ever built something like this here," he said softly. "This must be very old." They marked the area and continued digging carefully. As more of the surface was exposed, it became clear that the stone wasn't alone. Beneath it, there seemed to be an entire structure, possibly a roof or the top of a buried wall. Ethan's drone scans confirmed it. When he sent the small device into the air and guided it over the area, the ground image on the screen showed a dark, empty space beneath them. It was large, too large to be a natural cave. Maria stared at the screen, her heart pounding. "It's hollow," she said. "There's something down there," Ethan grinned. "You're telling me we just found a lost city?" He joked, but no one laughed. The air felt strange now, thick and electric. Even the wind seemed to have stopped. As they prepared to dig deeper, the equipment started acting weird. The compass needles spun around wildly, and the drone signal kept cutting off. Maria's tablet froze twice, and Ethan's camera stopped recording by itself. "Maybe it's the humidity," Ethan said, trying to stay calm, but Maria shook her head. "No," she said slowly. "It's something else. Maybe there's a magnetic field underground." Raphael didn't say anything. He stood silently, watching the shadows of the forest move. The sounds of the jungle had gone quiet. Not even the birds called now. It was as if everything around them was holding its breath. Later that evening, as the sun disappeared behind the trees, they set up lights and continued their work. The soft yellow glow from the lamps made long shadows on the ground. Maria felt both excitement and unease. They had already uncovered more stone blocks, each one carefully placed. It was clear now they were standing above an ancient structure. Ethan brushed dirt off another piece and gasped. "Maria, look at this." "Right," he called. She came running and saw what he was pointing at, a set of carvings. But these were different. They showed figures tall, human-like shapes, standing under a sun symbol. Some of them appeared to be holding strange objects like rods or tools. The carvings were worn, but the details were clear enough to see their meaning. "This isn't random," Maria said quietly. "It's a message." These people were builders. Or maybe guardians. Raphael crossed himself and muttered a short prayer. "We shouldn't be here," he said. "My grandfather told stories about a sleeping place in the forest where the old gods rest. No one should disturb them." Maria tried to calm him. "We'll stop soon," she said, though deep inside, she had no intention of stopping. The next day, the weather changed. The sky turned gray, and a heavy storm began to build. The air smelled of rain and danger. Still, Maria insisted on continuing. "We're close," she said. "Just one more layer." He dug faster, ignoring the growing thunder. Then suddenly the ground shook. A small section of the dig site collapsed inward, revealing a dark opening. Everyone jumped back, startled. A hollow sound came from the hole like air escaping from below. When the dust cleared, they saw a tunnel leading into the ground. It was narrow and sloped downward. Raphael's face went pale. "That's not a cave," he said. "That's an entrance." Maria leaned over the edge with a flashlight. The beam of light disappeared into the blackness below. She could see faint outlines of stone walls, smooth, almost polished. Her heart raced faster. "We found it," she whispered. "We actually found it." Ethan recorded the moment, his hands trembling slightly. The rain started to fall again, harder this time, turning the ground to mud. The wind howled through the trees and lightning flashed in the distance. Raphael shouted over the noise, "We need to leave. The storm will flood this place." But Maria didn't move. She was staring into the hole, mesmerized. She could feel something, a strange pull, almost like the earth was calling her. Ethan grabbed her arm. "Maria, come on. We'll come back tomorrow," he shouted. She blinked, finally nodding. They covered the hole with a tarp and secured it with stones before running back to their tents. By the time they reached camp, the rain was pouring down like a waterfall. That night, the storm raged endlessly. Thunder shook the ground, and flashes of light filled the tents. No one could sleep. Around midnight, Maria heard a low rumble, not thunder, but something deeper, coming from underground. It lasted only a few seconds, then stopped. She sat up, listening. Ethan was awake too, his face pale. "Did you feel that?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "It came from the tunnel," she whispered. The next morning, they found part of the ground near the dig site had sunk a few inches. The forest looked different, darker, quieter, as if watching them. Raphael refused to go near the site. "Something woke up last night," he said firmly. "We shouldn't dig anymore." Maria stood silently, staring at the covered hole. She didn't believe in curses or spirits, but something about this place made her uneasy. Still, her curiosity was stronger than her fear. "We'll open it tomorrow," she said softly, almost to herself. Ethan looked at her and knew she wouldn't stop. They had come too far to turn back now. What they didn't know was that the storm had changed more than the surface. Beneath their feet, deep underground, the ancient chamber had begun to breathe again. The morning after the storm, the forest was silent in a way that made everyone uneasy. The rain had stopped, but mist hung low over the trees. The air felt cold and strange, and every sound echoed too loudly. Maria stepped outside her tent and looked toward the dig site. The tarp they had placed over the hole had collapsed inward. Water had collected around it, forming a shallow pool. She felt her heartbeat quicken. Today was the day they would finally see what was beneath. Ethan came out rubbing his eyes. "We really going down there?" he asked, trying to sound calm but failing. Raphael stood a few feet away, his arms crossed tightly. "You should not go," he said in a low voice. "The earth here. It moves when it wants. It doesn't like to be disturbed." Maria looked at him, then at the ground. "I have to see it," she said quietly. "This could be one of the biggest discoveries in human history." They packed their gear, carefully headlamps, ropes, oxygen tanks, and a camera drone small enough to fly through tunnels. The jungle seemed to hold its breath as they approached the hole. The entrance was wider now, as if the storm had washed away more soil. Maria knelt beside it and shone her flashlight downward. The beam revealed stone steps, uneven but clearly carved by human hands, leading into darkness. Ethan swallowed hard. "Well," he said, forcing a smile, "at least it's not a snake pit." Maria gave a nervous laugh. "We'll go slow. Raphael, you stay up here and monitor our line. If something happens, pull us out." Raphael shook his head. "I'm not letting you go alone," he said firmly. "If you go, I go too?" His voice carried fear, but also loyalty. They tied a thick rope around a nearby tree and began their descent. The air grew cooler and heavier with each step down. Water dripped from the ceiling. The smell of wet stone filled their noses. Their flashlights revealed walls of smooth, dark stone covered in carvings. The patterns were unlike anything they had seen before: spirals, animal figures, and symbols that glowed faintly blue when light touched them. Maria reached out and brushed the carvings gently. "This is impossible," she whispered. "The gloat's some kind of mineral reaction. I've never seen anything like this." Ethan took photos. Those hands trembled. The tunnel grew wider as they went deeper. After a few minutes, it opened into a large underground chamber. The sight before them made all three freeze in awe. The walls of the chamber stretched high above their heads, covered entirely with glowing symbols. Massive stone pillars held up the ceiling, each one carved with faces tall, calm faces that didn't look quite human. In the center of the chamber was a raised platform, and on it stood several stone statues arranged in a circle. The statues looked almost alive. They showed people wearing strange clothing, tight suits, helmets, belts with small round objects attached. One statue even held what looked like a tool made of metal. Maria slowly walked around them, her flashlight tracing every detail. "These aren't jungle tribes," she said softly. This looks modern." Ethan laughed nervously. "You mean like astronauts?" he asked. Maria didn't answer. She was staring at one statue whose eyes seemed to follow her wherever she went. The carvings were so detailed that she could see the wrinkles in its face. At the back of the chamber was something even stranger: massive stone and metal door built into the wall. It was rectangular, with thick borders made from a dull, silver-like material. In the center was a large circular emblem glowing faintly blue, just like the carvings. Strange symbols surrounded it, arranged in neat rows. Ethan stepped closer and touched the metal. "It's cold," he said, "but it feels like it's vibrating." Maria joined him and studied the symbols. "It looks like writing," she murmured, "but it's not any language I know." She took out her camera and began taking photos. Raphael stayed near the entrance, his eyes darting around the chamber. "We shouldn't stay long," he said. "Places like this are not meant to be opened again. They decided to send the drone further inside to explore. Ethan set it on the ground, and it rose slowly, hovering near the ceiling. Its lights illuminated parts of the room they hadn't seen yet, more carvings, tunnels leading in different directions, and strange metal fragments scattered near the big door. Suddenly, the drone's camera flickered. Static filled the screen, then everything went black. "What happened?" Maria asked. Ethan tapped the controller. "It's not responding," he said. "It just shut off." Then the ground beneath them trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling, and one of the statues cracked down the middle with a loud sound. The chamber echoed with deep rumbling, as if something massive had awakened beneath them. "Now," Raphael shouted. They turned and ran toward the tunnel. The shaking grew stronger. Pieces of rock fell around them, and the faint blue light flickered wildly. As they reached the stairs, Maria looked back one last time. The giant door in the wall was now glowing brighter, almost pulsing like a heartbeat. For a moment, she thought she saw the circle in the center rotate slightly. Releasing a thin line of light from its edge, they climbed out of the tunnel just as the entrance began to collapse. Mud and stone poured down, sealing the opening behind them. They fell to the ground, gasping for air, covered in dirt. The forest around them seemed to come alive again, the sounds of birds, the rustle of leaves, the hum of insects returning. Ethan lay on his back, staring at the gray sky. That was insane," he said between breaths. Maria sat up, brushing mud from her face. Her eyes were wide with shock and wonder. "We found something no one has ever seen before," she said quietly. "And it's still down there." Raphael stood up, trembling. "It's better that it stays down there," he said. "Whatever that was, it didn't want us inside." Maria didn't answer. She stared at the collapsed hole, remembering the blue glow, the door, and the faint vibration under her hand. She felt sure that what they had seen was just a small part of something much bigger. As night fell, they sat silently around the campfire. None of them could stop thinking about what they had witnessed. Ethan finally spoke. "What do you think was behind that door?" Maria looked into the flames, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe something that was never meant to be found." The jungle around them seemed to whisper in response. The wind moved through the trees like a sigh, and somewhere far away, thunder rolled again. Maria glanced toward the dig site, now hidden under layers of mud. She couldn't shake the feeling that the door below them hadn't just been part of an ancient ruin, it had been guarding something. Something alive. And now, after thousands of years, it might not be asleep anymore. The next morning, the jungle was quiet again, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that made the skin crawl, the kind that warned something had changed. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like wet stone and thunder. Maria sat near the fire, staring at the mud-covered spot where the entrance had collapsed. Her hands trembled slightly as she held her notebook. Every time she blinked, she saw the glowing blue door again in her mind, that soft hum, that pulse of light as if it had been alive. Ethan broke the silence first. "So what now?" he asked quietly. "We can't just leave, can we?" He tried to sound confident, but his voice cracked. Raphael didn't even look up. He was sharpening his knife slowly, staring into the flames. "We leave," he said firmly. "We take what we saw and forget this place." Maria shook her head. "We can't just walk away. Do you realize what this means? That chamber changes everything we know about history." Raphael looked up sharply. "And maybe it changes things we're not supposed to change," he said. "This forest is old. Older than our stories. My grandfather told me about places where people disappear after touching the wrong stone." Ethan sighed and rubbed his face. "I don't know about curses," he said. "But the fact that everything went crazy down there, equipment dying, the ground shaking, something's not right." Maria listened, but didn't respond. She knew they were both scared. So was she. But her curiosity burned stronger than fear. That night, she stayed awake long after the others had gone to sleep. Writing everything in her notebook, the carvings, the symbols, the metal, the glowing mineral. At the bottom of the page, she wrote one line: "If it was a door, then something built it. And if it was built, it can be opened." The next day, they started packing their equipment. Raphael insisted they leave before dark. Maria wanted to stay one more night, but when she looked at the jungle, even she felt uneasy. The air had grown heavy, and a strange vibration seemed to echo under their feet, too faint to hear but strong enough to feel. As they began their hike back to the river, Maria kept glancing over her shoulder. The forest seemed to close in behind them, like it was swallowing the path they had taken. After 2 days of travel, they finally reached a small research station near the edge of the rainforest. It was a simple wooden building with solar panels and radio equipment. The moment they arrived, Maria rushed to the lab area and connected her laptop. She uploaded the few photos and videos they still had. Most of the footage from the drone was corrupted, but a few images remained: the glowing walls, the statues, and a blurry shot of the door before everything went dark. When the local researchers saw the images, they were speechless. One of them, a historian named Dr. Lopez, stared at the screen for several minutes before saying, This shouldn't exist. There's nothing like this in any Amazonian record." Maria nodded. "I know, that's why we have to report it. This could be the discovery of the century." He contacted the government office in Manaus, sending the data and coordinates. At first, everything seemed normal. Officials promised to send a team to investigate. But the next morning, things changed. 2 helicopters landed near the station, and a group of uniformed men stepped out. They spoke quietly with the station leader, then asked to see Maria and her team. The man who led them wore a dark uniform and sunglasses, even though it was cloudy. He smiled politely, but coldly. "You're the archaeologist who made the discovery," he said. "We'll need all your recordings, samples, and data. This area is now restricted for safety reasons." Maria tried to argue. "You can't just take our work," she said. "We found something important for science, for history." The man didn't raise his voice. "And we will make sure it is handled properly," he said smoothly. "For now, your safety is our concern. You'll return home immediately." Within an hour, they were forced to hand over everything: hard drives, cameras, even their notebooks. The officials packed it all into sealed black cases and loaded them onto the helicopters. Maria felt helpless. It was as if her entire discovery was being erased. Ethan stood beside her, whispering, "What the hell is happening? Why are they acting like this?" Before leaving, the man handed Maria a paper to sign. It was a confidentiality agreement, warning her not to speak about what they had found. "This is for your own good," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sometimes, knowledge brings more danger than truth." After they left, the research station felt empty. That night, Maria sat alone by the river, staring at the stars reflecting on the water. The jungle hummed softly, alive and endless. She thought about the glowing chamber, the door, and the strange feeling she had when she touched it. Deep down, she knew that door wasn't just an ancient artifact. It was a warning. Ethan sat down beside her. "You think they'll ever tell the world what we found?" he asked quietly. Maria shook her head. "No. They'll bury it, just like the forest buried it before. Maybe they already knew it was there." The next morning, the team prepared to leave for the city. But before packing her bag, Maria went to the small storage shed near the back of the station. Inside, she checked the toolbox she had brought from camp. Hidden beneath the tools was a small object wrapped in cloth, a metallic disc the size of her palm, carved with the same glowing blue symbols they had seen on the door. She had taken it quietly during the excavation, not knowing why. Now she was glad she did. She held it up to the light. The metal was smooth and cold, and faint blue lines pulsed across its surface like veins of light. When she tilted it, it made a soft humming sound, almost like a heartbeat. Maria's chest tightened. "You're not just metal, are you?" she whispered. She slipped it back into her bag before anyone could see. They left the Amazon by boat, the forest fading behind them. As the river widened, Maria looked back one last time. The jungle stretched endlessly, green and alive. But somewhere deep inside it, buried under mud and stone, was the door. She knew she would never forget it, and she also knew she would come back. Over the following weeks, Maria tried to contact the officials who had taken her research, but no one replied. Her emails went unanswered, her phone calls redirected. One night she received a message from an unknown number: "Do not pursue. For your safety, forget what you found. After that, her phone went silent. Ethan suggested they move on. Maybe it's for the best, he said. We got out alive. Let's leave it at that. Maria couldn't. Every time she looked at the metallic disc hidden in her desk drawer, she felt the same strange pull, the same vibration she had felt beneath the earth. She began studying the artifact in secret, scanning it under ultraviolet light and testing its material. The results made no sense. The metal wasn't like anything on Earth. It was too light, too durable, and didn't react to heat or acid. Maria stared at the test results for hours, her heart pounding. Whatever they had found under that jungle wasn't just an ancient civilization. It was something beyond human understanding. She looked out her window that night, the disc glowing faintly on her desk. The jungle might be far away, but she could almost feel its breath again, the heartbeat of the earth, waiting, whispering, calling her name. Months passed after the Amazon expedition ended, but Maria couldn't forget what they had seen. Every night she dreamed of the glowing blue light, the strange statues, and that giant sealed door underground. She still had the small metallic disc she secretly took from the chamber, hidden in a box under her bed. Sometimes she would hold it in her hands and watch how it reflected light in ways no metal ever did. It felt warm to touch, almost alive. Ethan and Raphael had both returned to their normal lives, but Maria couldn't move on. She felt as if the jungle was calling her back. At the university, Maria worked in her lab as usual, but every free moment she got, she ran tests on the mysterious artifact. The results confused her. The metal didn't match any known element. It wasn't iron, copper, silver, or even any alloy humans had created. When she heated it, the metal didn't melt. It only shimmered and gave off a faint blue glow. When she used a laser to measure its density, the readings broke her machine. Maria's hands trembled. She knew she was looking at something that didn't belong to this world. She decided to keep everything secret. The government had already taken their samples, their maps, and even the footage from their cameras. But they couldn't take away her memory. She stayed up late every night, writing everything she remembered in her notebook. The carvings, the tunnels, the door, the strange hum they heard before the ground shook. She wanted to make sure the truth wouldn't be lost if something happened to her. One evening, Maria received a message from Ethan. He said he missed the team and wanted to meet. They met in a small cafe near the university. Ethan looked tired and nervous. He told her that strange people had been following him ever since they returned. His emails were being monitored, and he had even received an anonymous phone call warning him to stop digging into things that don't concern you. Maria's heart raced as she listened. She told Ethan about the artifact and the tests she had done. Ethan's eyes widened with fear. He told her to destroy it before someone found out. But Maria refused. She said the world deserved to know the truth. A few weeks later, Maria decided to take a bold step. She recorded a detailed video showing the artifact, her research, and everything they found in the Amazon. She uploaded it online under a fake name and sent copies to several science journalists. Within days, the video went viral. Millions of people watched it. News channels started talking about the Amazon mystery. Some scientists called it the greatest archaeological discovery of the century, while others said it was fake. People argued online, creating theories about lost civilizations, aliens, and secret governments. Soon, Maria's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters camped outside her university. Government officials requested to speak with her privately. Even foreign scientists tried to contact her. Maria felt overwhelmed, but proud. The truth was finally out. She knew that once the world saw the evidence, someone would believe her. But then, things took a darker turn. One night, while she was in her lab, the light suddenly went out. She heard footsteps in the hallway. When she opened the door, 2 men in black suits were standing there. They said they were from the government and needed to take the artifact for further analysis. Maria refused and tried to close the door, but they pushed their way in. She screamed for help, but no one came. They took the disc from her desk and warned her to stop investigating, or she would disappear like the others. When they left, Maria sat on the floor shaking. She realized how dangerous the truth had become. The next morning, she packed her things and disappeared. She didn't tell Ethan or Raphael where she was going. All she left behind was a note that said, "Some secrets are buried for a reason." "But I can't stop now." Ethan tried calling her, but her number was disconnected. Days turned into weeks, and no one could find her. Months later, strange rumors started spreading in a small Amazonian village. Locals said they saw a woman wandering through the forest carrying strange equipment and talking about blue lights. Some claimed she found the underground entrance again, but it was deeper this time, hidden under new layers of roots and soil. One hunter swore he saw a bright blue glow coming from the jungle one night, brighter than moonlight. When he went to check, he found strange footprints and broken tools, but no sign of the woman. Back in the city, Ethan received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a small photo of Maria standing in front of what looked like the underground chamber door. The same blue light shone behind her. On the back of the photo, there was a short message written in her handwriting. "It's not what we thought. It's something alive." Ethan felt a chill run through his body. He tried to contact her again, but she was gone. Over time, the story faded from the news. People moved on, calling it a hoax. The government denied everything. But every now and then, new explorers who ventured deep into that part of the Amazon would report seeing flickering blue light under the ground at night. Some said their compasses stopped working, just like before. Others claimed to hear faint humming noises, almost like a heartbeat coming from the earth. No one ever found Maria again, but her research papers were leaked years later. They contained drawings of the symbols from the underground door, maps of the hidden chamber, and chemical analysis of the blue metal. Scientists who read her notes said the material she found could not have formed naturally on Earth. It was made of compounds unknown to modern science. Today, the legend of the lost Amazon civilization continues to fascinate the world. Some believe it was a forgotten human culture that developed advanced technology long before recorded history. Others believe it was a message from visitors not of this planet. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain: something extraordinary lies buried deep under the Amazon. And if Maria Torres is still out there, she might be the only one who knows what it truly is. People who live near that region say that, on quiet nights, when the jungle is still and the sky is clear, a faint blue glow can be seen flickering between the trees, just for a moment before fading away. Some say it's just light from fireflies or strange minerals in the soil. But others whisper that it's Maria still exploring, still searching, still protecting the secret she uncovered that shocked the world.